One of the videos that I am mostly not proud of is the video I made something like almost 3 years ago, talking about the Vancouver Canucks and what if we did not draft Jake Virtanen. And it's not that I'm not proud of that video because I didn't like the topic, it's mostly in the way that my 15-year-old self kind of framed the idea. I was talking about how Virtanen was bad and how he was not good and how he needed AHL time, and I was talking about how people cheered when he was sent down to the AHL, and overall I think I could have handled that topic much better today than I could 3 years ago, so I'm making this video with that in mind. What if the Vancouver Canucks did not draft Olli Juolevi? And this is a topic that kind of circulated on Twitter a little bit more over the past few weeks. I kind of saw a few people talking about it here and there, and the overarching element of this idea all stems on the Vancouver Canucks and their 2016-2017 results, because anybody who takes a look at this topic almost always concludes the same thing. If we didn't draft Olli Juolevi, we would have drafted Matthew Tkachuk, his teammate, his left-winger London Knights comrade who posted incredible numbers in his first and only season in the OHL. And everybody knows that Tkachuk made the NHL in his first year. He got 50 points, 13 goals, and the Calgary Flames took him right after the Vancouver Canucks took Juolevi. So if the Vancouver Canucks did not draft Olli Juolevi first, let's conclude that they most likely would have an NHL talent on their hands today. Because taking a look at the 2016 NHL entry draft, out of the first 16 picks, Olli Juolevi is the only one out of those 16 to have not played an NHL game thus far. And don't get me wrong, you got guys like Nylander, McLeod, Jake Bean, who haven't played all too many NHL games either, but Juolevi is the first out of the top 7 to have not played a single game, and the top 7, the lowest amount of games played, it's Pierre-Luc Dubois and Jesse Puljujarvi, 120 games played each. So, the Vancouver Canucks could have taken Matthew Tkachuk, they could have taken Clayton Keller on the 7th overall spot from Arizona, they could have taken Mikhail Sergachev, who went 9th to Montreal. But let's just assume Matthew Tkachuk for now, because those were the players that people were kind of thinking about a little bit more. It was mostly Juolevi, Tkachuk, and Sergachev who people were thinking about. Not that many people were thinking about Clayton Keller for the Canucks, nor Nylander, not necessarily all these guys who went later on in the draft. So let's take a look at the overarching elements here, because Matthew Tkachuk got himself 48 points and 13 goals in his first NHL season. Assume everything stays the same. Assume his production remains exactly the same if he goes to Vancouver instead of Calgary in his first year. Now that's unrealistic because the Canucks were significantly worse than the Calgary Flames in 2016-17, but let's just assume for now. The Vancouver Canucks in 2017 finished with a league second worst of 182 goals for. The only team that was worse than them was Colorado with 166 goals for. Assume the Vancouver Canucks remain as it is with their goals and their points. Matthew Tkachuk with his 48 would have been third in points in the Vancouver Canucks locker room. Bo Horvat got 52, Henrik Sedin got 50. Those would be the only two players above Tkachuk, had Tkachuk come into Vancouver and scored 48 points. In terms of goals, he got 13 goals. The Vancouver Canucks, well, their leading goal guy was Bo Horvat with 20. Matthew Tkachuk would have slotted into the Vancouver lineup 7th in total goals with 13. Now, take a look at the assists and kind of remove things and take things with a grain of salt, because if you add Matthew Tkachuk to a Vancouver Canucks team, you're not getting 48 extra goals. You're getting 13 extra goals. Those assists get distributed amongst the rest of the team. Having Matthew Tkachuk on the team doesn't add 48 goals to our entirety of goals for. It just maybe increases the production of the rest of the guys a little bit. As a safe bet, let's take our 13 guaranteed goals from Tkachuk, and let's take our 35 assists from Tkachuk, and let's assume that that adds, let's say, 10 goals to the Vancouver Canucks goals entirety. In total, we have 23 extra goals for the Vancouver Canucks, and automatically, that doesn't necessarily make us all too much better. The Canucks would have ended up with roughly 200-ish goals for, which would have put them above the Arizona Coyotes in terms of goals for in our division, same as the New Jersey Devils. Now, let's assume that the Vancouver Canucks maybe win a few more games because of these extra 20-ish goals. That puts us in a bad spot, because we leapfrog Arizona and New Jersey in the standings. Now, New Jersey ended up winning the first overall pick that year, so if we were in New Jersey's spot, we would have had a better chance at winning first overall just based off of the idea that that's literally what happened. Now, the odds wouldn't be in our favor because, obviously, Colorado, Vancouver, and Arizona, the bottom three teams, they had the best odds in that draft. But New Jersey, who had the fourth best odds in that draft, they ended up winning. So if the Vancouver Canucks end up in New Jersey's spot, they could have drafted first overall. They probably would have still taken Elias Pettersson because everybody was kind of hinting that the Canucks didn't have Hischier or Patrick at number 1. But let's assume that New Jersey stays at first, and Arizona stays at where they drafted, Colorado stays at where they drafted, the Vancouver Canucks, they kind of move down. That's actually a really bad thing to happen, because the Vegas Golden Knights, they were guaranteed a spot in the top 6 or the top 7, I think it was the top 6, and they ended up drafting 6th. So, taking away Vegas from the equation, the team that came right after Vancouver was Arizona in the draft, but Arizona traded that pick over to the New York Rangers because the New York Rangers sent over Derek Stepan and Antti Ranta. The thing is, if this scenario plays out, the Vancouver Canucks have Tkachuk, that basically more or less translates to the Vancouver Canucks drafting after the New York Rangers in the 2017 NHL entry draft. Assuming the Vancouver Canucks get first, we most likely would have still gotten Pettersson, and we most likely still would have been in the same position now, just without Juolevi in the AHL and with Tkachuk on the roster. But the other probable situation was the Vancouver Canucks dropping down to 7th, and New York jumping up to 5. This is bad, because there was heavy speculation that the New York Rangers really wanted Elias Pettersson. And they made that trade with the Arizona Coyotes because they wanted to take Pettersson. And in real life, the Vancouver Canucks took Pettersson at 5. Pettersson was supposed to go down to 9. And the New York Rangers had to settle for fellow Swede Elias Andersson. And I think just from looking at the 2018 draft, it's kind of easy to see how the New York Rangers, they go off the board a little bit. They took Vitaly Kravtsov at 9th, and if they feel really confident in a European player, they're going to take him earlier than people think. We saw it with the Vancouver Canucks, they took Pettersson at 5. The New York Rangers were willing to take Pettersson at 7, because nobody necessarily thought that Pettersson was going to be there at 7. So the overarching argument that people have when talking about Olli Juolevi really does end up with the Vancouver Canucks not getting Pettersson. And that's usually consistent with the arguments here. And assuming everything that we've taken into fruition here, Matthew Tkachuk comes in, there's an extra 20 goals added to the Canucks goal total, and we win more or less a few more games, we would most likely have dropped to either first, which I don't want to proclaim in this scenario, or 7th. And we wouldn't have ended up with Elias Pettersson. We most likely would have drafted Casey Mittelstadt or Elias Andersson after, and things would be kind of different now. We'd have Matthew Tkachuk, yes, but I don't know how the rest of the things would have played out. So overall, that's basically my quick take on this. What if the Vancouver Canucks did not draft Olli Juolevi and instead drafted Matthew Tkachuk? Things would be really different, and overall our core going forward would be completely shifted from what we have today. Hope you guys enjoyed this Twitter plus /9 gaming, and bye.